This is Kurt Becker, who is at NYU Tandon School of Engineering, my boss there on the board of the Media Lab, who'll say a word of welcome from Tandon, and then we'll bring on President Hatzler. So, Kurt.
Good morning, everybody. I was starting my presentation by thanking President Hatzler, but I think that's a moot point now. He's not here yet. But nevertheless, I would like to welcome you to really this fantastic new facility at CIDTech. And I'm also quite amazed as a neighbor of CIDTech how much progress has this institution made in the last few years. To you, the participants, I'll say you will be spending a lot of time here today, but I hope you will also walk 500 feet or so down the road to the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. Justin mentioned something before about 10 years, so I believe there are few, if any, people in the audience here who remember when 10 years ago, NYU Poly, which is what we were called back then, and Columbia, essentially Oren and I, wrote the proposal to the New York City Economic Development Corporation for a New York City Media Lab. Oren and I put together what we thought was a very aspirational and ambitious proposal and concept for the lab. We had absolutely no idea that this would develop into what you see and experience today. The lab has surpassed all our wildest expectations and dreams from back then by many, many orders of magnitude. I'm also very pleased to tell you that the New York City Media Lab now has a new physical home in our new building, 370 J Street, a building that just opened a few months ago and is home to faculty, students, and entrepreneurs. For us, the Media Lab really provides the connection to our academic partners in the city, to industry, to innovators, and to entrepreneurs, and last but not least, to the general public in the city. Media Lab projects, out of necessity, bring together diverse perspectives and disciplines, and they are highly collaborative. You will see many of these projects today on display during the expo. I encourage you and I urge you to go, mingle, talk to the faculty, talk to the students, and see what they're doing. The best part of this event has been and continues to be the new ideas that are being presented and the enthusiasm of the people who work on it. Many of my colleagues at NYU Tandon are participating in today's events and activities, far too many to mention them all by name. I just want to give you a few examples. Professor Yao Wang and two of her students will give a main stage presentation today about their project that they're doing with Viacom. And they use deep learning to label and rank information that is being extracted from television shows. Carla Ganis, an industry professor in our integrated digital media program, will lead a workshop on using AI to fuel artistic and creative practices. Craig Wilson, who directs the Tandon Future Labs incubation programs, will lead a discussion on how the Future Labs, the companies in it, and the programs have contributed over $7 billion and created more than 5,500 jobs in the city of New York in the past 10 years. The session will take place at 370 J Street, and you will also have an opportunity to interact with some of the innovative startup companies in our Future Labs. Victoria Bill, the director of our Makerspace, will host many presentations from across the ecosystem of the Media Lab, and she will also have a workshop and a walking tour of the Makerspace to show everybody the next generation of fabrication technologies. I would really like to acknowledge James Patchett, who's sitting in the back, the president of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and Karen Bhatia, the executive vice president, who is sitting somewhere, I'm sure. I want to thank them for their unwavering support and their stewardship of this Media Lab program, and of many others like it that all attempt to connect or integrate the city's academic institutions into the EDC's economic development goals. And lastly, since this is sort of a 10-year anniversary, I really would like to acknowledge the many, many years of mutually beneficial collaborations with our other academic founding partner, Columbia University, and in particular with Oren Herskowitz, even though he can't be here, and his team. I'd also like to acknowledge our other academic partners, CUNY, of course, and the New School, the School of Visual Arts, and Pratt. What is assembled here in this room is truly a community that can only exist and thrive in New York City. And each of you plays a key role in the Media Lab, and you're part of it, and you help sustain it, make it possible, and make sure that it continues to thrive and be on the forefront of new media technologies. Again, thank you very much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, next up, I'm going to introduce very quickly James Patchett, who is the president of the New York City Economic Development Corporation. And we thank you, James, for your years of support of the Media Lab.
Thank you, Justin. Good morning. Welcome to the annual Media Lab Summit. I was here last year. It's always really exciting to see what's happening, especially the demos, which are mind-blowing every year. Before I begin, I want to thank all of our partners, City Tech for hosting us today, also Dr. Becker and his team at NYU Tandon for hosting us later today, and of course for their partnership. All of our other university partners, our partners at MOM, who are going to be speaking in a moment, my team at EDC, who works on this nonstop, and I also particularly want to congratulate Justin and his team for the incredible work that they do every year and putting this on and everything else all year long. Thank you, Justin. So at EDC, we do a lot of different things. You may not know what those are. But we think about ourselves as working to build stronger neighborhoods and create good jobs in the city. It's a big city, 8.6 million people, so that's a lot of work. We have 4 particular areas that we focus on. The first is building our neighborhoods, making them better for our communities and strengthening the people who live in them. The second is thinking about the jobs of the future and how we ensure that New Yorkers are going to be prepared for them. The third is investing in our infrastructure so that our economy can be more resilient and more prepared for the inevitabilities of climate change and other factors that are going to impact this city in the future. And finally, we invest in the economy of the future, and we try to spark innovation wherever we can, and that's really what Media Lab is about. If you go back to its founding in 2010, it was an EDC initiative, and we were looking at the media industry. And it was obvious then, as it's sort of more obvious now, that every industry was going to be impacted by technology, and media was obviously one of the first. And this was way before 2010 that we all saw this happening. I get to witness it firsthand because my wife is a journalist, so she comes and complains about technology all the time. But I think the thing about it is there's no better place to have this conversation about how to ensure that we're at the forefront of innovation in media than New York, because New York really is the international media capital. We've got the New York Times, Viacom, and Bloomberg. We have Hearst and Condé Nast, the 2 largest magazine publishers. And we have the new media companies like BuzzFeed, Vox, and Vice. So we have it all happening right here in the city. So this is where we should be having these conversations about what the future of the industry is about. And that's exactly what this is. It's a partnership with our world-class academic institutions, including Columbia, NYU, the New School, Pratt, CUNY, and the School of Visual Arts. And we have corporates who are a part of this partnership as well. We have the Associated Press, Publicis Group, Verizon, Viacom, and many, many others. This is really the only city in the world where this kind of collaboration and conversation could happen. And in the last 10 years, over 200 prototypes have been born out of the work here at the Media Lab, including an AI tool that processes raw video footage of news stories and a deep learning engine that automatically renders 3D models of cities. Over 40 teams of 135 entrepreneurs have been through the Combine Accelerator here at the Media Lab, which only started in 2016. And I think most important, this institution has delivered on its promise to really engage the surrounding community in the whole city and bring them together in this discussion. Last year alone, there were almost 4,000 people who participated in Media Lab events. It helps to democratize the industry and ensure that everyone's a part of the conversation. I just wanted to talk about a couple of the demos that are going to be on display today because I think they're cool. So one is something by Columbia University titled Reconstructing Intelligible Speech from the Human Brain. This project records brain signals of subjects listening to speech with electrodes and shows their neural responses. Another demo is called eWitness, which is put on by the John Jay College of Criminal Justice and NYU. And what that does is it uses blockchain to validate video imagery from everything from body cams to crime scene photos to surveillance videos. And you can imagine in the world that we're living in today, it's going to be incredibly valuable. In addition to demos, there are going to be exhibits that show the collaborations between universities and startups. There's Retina Technologies, which is trying to identify blindness early. You might not be aware of this, but there is a significant deficit of optometrists and ophthalmologists in low-income communities. So having technology to help catch blindness and issues with the eyesight early on will help those communities. There's another media platform called OVI that helps distribute information on women's reproductive health. These are the kind of technologies we wanted to see out of the Media Lab. Technologies that won't just ensure that we're at the cutting edge of media, but also ensure that we're thinking about the way that we can use media to make the world a better place. So I want to thank everyone for being here, and I want to thank Media Lab. Congratulations, and have a wonderful day.
All right, next up I'm going to welcome my colleague Leah Jones-Harvey, who is Director of Workforce and Education at the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. Alia.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to join you today and welcome to the 2019 NYC Media Lab Summit. As you heard, I'm Alia Jones, Director of Education and Workforce Development at the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, affectionately referred to as MOME. For those who are not familiar with our office, we oversee economic development initiatives for jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities across New York City's creative sectors that include film, theater, television, digital content, music, advertising, and publishing. We also oversee the Office of Film, Theater, and Broadcasting, which facilitates film and TV production throughout the 5 boroughs. So if you've seen our Made in New York trucks, we do all of the permitting of the filming throughout New York City. We also oversee NYC Media, the largest municipal public broadcasting television and radio network with a reach of 18 million households, or 18 million people, and the Office of Nightlife, which we just launched last year, which supports the sustainable development of New York City's nightlife industry. Combined, these industries account for over 300,000 jobs and $104 billion in economic output to the local economy. We've been supporting NYC Media Lab since 2015, and it has been such a pleasure to work with Justin and his team. In particular, we helped to start and support the Combine program that you heard a little bit about, and we've also helped to support and launch the R Lab that was mentioned. In fact, MOME was part of the original conversation that started NYC Media Lab 10 years ago, and at the turn of the last decade, NYC Economic Development Corporation, EDC, that James Patchett, that you just heard from, Helms, and MOME convened a group of stakeholders from across the city to produce a report called Media 2020. It looked at the decade ahead and tried to imagine how the city's media industry might evolve, particularly in the face of new technology. That process identified a number of areas where the city could invest to prepare for the future. One idea that came out of that process was the NYC Media Lab. We could not be more thrilled about how that community has taken shape, how this community has taken shape, and been activated through this extraordinary organization. We're excited about the connections that have taken place between students and executives, between early stage founders and industry mentors, and between entrepreneurs and customers. This community has grown tremendously because New York City keeps attracting talented people and is committed to enabling innovation. So committed that we think it's time to bring the city together again, to think about the decade ahead. That's why we're pleased to work with the NYC Media Lab on a new project called Media 2030.NYC. We look forward to working with our partners. Oh, was that applause? We look forward to working with our partners at NYC Media Lab and EDC to help convene the conversation across a broad range of stakeholders about how we should work on what we should work on together over the next decade to advance the crucial conversation about the future of media and technology in New York. In the coming weeks, we'll announce a series of conversations to invite ideas about how to build and support a media ecosystem that drives equity and economic development, one that will support creativity and a healthy democracy. We'll look at media and tech employment from pay to representation in newsrooms, in boardrooms, and in engineering. We'll document and forecast changes in business models, community impact, and potential policy interventions. We'll look at our physical communications infrastructure and how our institutions, our parks, our libraries, and our schools play a role in making New York City the media capital of the world. How will we do this? Lots of coffee, snacks, and hands-on work sessions, discussions with experts, with the community, and with our youth, most importantly. So join us by going to media2030.nyc and sign up to get in the loop, to receive updates. We look forward to hearing more from you and meeting here again next year in September 2020, the beginning of the new decade, to discuss the results of this work. Thank you and enjoy the summit.